So imagine you want to read this like totally groundbreaking paper on how to use nature to save the planet, right? You find the link, you go to open it, but instead of the document, a machine just stares back at you.
Right, yeah.
It analyzes your request, decides you aren't, human enough to proceed, and literally slams the door in your face.
Which is such a jarring
Oh,
experience.
completely.
Because, I mean, we expect the internet, especially when we're dealing with academic research, to be this vast, open expanse. Finding a literal digital brick wall right in your path, it completely disrupts that expectation.
Exactly. And that is exactly what happened to us today. We had this incredible deep dive mapped out for you. The plan was to synthesize this cutting-edge academic paper about environmental tourism, unpacking the intersection of travel and ecological healing. But
We hit a wall.
a massive wall. Instead of a beautiful paper, the only source material we walked away with is a digital rejection slip, like a highly specific access denied error page from the academic network ResearchGate, time-stamped Thursday, July 2, 2026.
Yeah, we are entirely locked out of the primary information we actually set out to analyze today.
So we're pivoting. Instead of summarizing a beautifully written paper, we're turning this deep dive into basically a digital forensic investigation.
I love this approach, actually.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. We're going to break down the exact anatomy of this internet roadblock, scrutinize the tiny scraps of metadata left behind at the scene, and attempt to reconstruct the ghost document we were prevented from seeing.
Because the padlock itself has a surprisingly fascinating story to tell, you know? Investigating an error page is, well, it's a brilliant way to understand modern information architecture.
Totally.
In the digital age, a rejection isn't just a blank wall. It is a highly specific data point. I mean, a server log tells you precisely who blocked you at what exact millisecond and the mechanical logic behind the denial.
Okay, so let's step up to the metadata, like crime scene investigators, and look at the specifics of this digital padlock. The incident occurred at exactly 08.55.46 UTC.
So a morning rejection.
A very precise morning rejection. And the platform, looking at the copyright footprint on the page, is ResearchGate. It says copyright 2008 to 2026. This is a massive, established repository of global academic knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. ResearchGate GmbH essentially functions as the central nervous system for millions of scientists and researchers sharing their work.
Right.
Its entire foundational architecture originally was built on the concept of connection, right? The rapid dissemination of data.
But the rejection we received is just incredibly stark. Like, we get the message, you do not have access to www.researchgate.net. Followed by, the site owner may have set restrictions that prevent you from accessing the site.
Yeah, they really don't sugarcoat it.
No, they don't.
No.
But the bouncer didn't just turn us away with a generic message. It logged an exact footprint of our failure, starting with something called array ID.
Ah, right.
The string is A14C6 S6490835. Like, what actually is array ID? It sounds like a serial number from some sci-fi movie.
It does, yeah. So array ID is the signature of a reverse proxy network. It's typically associated with Cloudflare.
Okay, Cloudflare.
Yeah. When you try to access a massive site like ResearchGate, your request doesn't usually travel directly from your computer to their main database.
That makes sense.
Because that would be chaotic, right?
Yeah.
And highly insecure. Instead, your request hits this massive digital sorting facility, an edge server standing hundreds of miles away from the actual vault. The array ID is a unique cryptographic tracking hash assigned to your specific interaction the exact millisecond it hits that outer wall.
Wow, okay. So we never even made it to the main library.
That might be close.
We were stopped at an outpost, and the log identifies that outpost as server ID FL745F39.
Right. That specific server intercepted our request, assigned the array ID, and then logged the point of origin, which is our client IP address, reading 66.249.84.202.
So it knows exactly where we came from.
Exactly. And within fractions of a second, server FL745F39 looked at where we were coming from, looked at what we were asking for, and triggered error reference number 1020.
But a server doesn't just trigger an error 1020 for fun, right?
No, definitely not.
It executes that command for a highly specific reason based on the rules it was given. And the source metadata left one final, crucial piece of evidence at the very bottom of the page that explains exactly why we failed to check.
The user agent string.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because usually a user agent acts like a digital ID badge.
Yeah.
Right. The kind you wear around your neck when you browse the web.
That's a good way to put it.
If you, the listener, click a link on your laptop, Your browser quietly presents this badge to the website. It says something like, hello, I am a human using Chrome on a Windows operating system, or like, I am using Safari on an iPhone.
Yeah, and the initial purpose of that badge was purely formatting. It allowed the receiving server to understand what kind of device was requesting the information so it could format the text margins and, image resolutions correctly for your specific screen size.
So it started out helpful, but the user agent logged by server FL745F39 for us wasn't a standard human browser.
No, it wasn't.
The log explicitly names the culprit on our end. The badge we presented read Google Notebook LM.
What's fascinating here is that the entity trying to pull this academic paper wasn't a human clicking a mouse.
Right.
It was an automated artificial intelligence tool, specifically Notebook LM, attempting to ingest the document so it could synthesize the data for us so we could present it to you.
We essentially sent a robotic assistant into the library to speed read a document, and the bouncer at the Outpost server looked at the ID badge, saw the word bot, and slammed the heavy wooden doors shut.
Exactly. The site owner didn't block the human hosts of this show, nor did they block you, the listener. They actively blocked the method of retrieval.
Which is wild when you think about
It
it.
is. They have instituted an automated force field explicitly designed to prevent artificial intelligence systems from crawling their archives.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here. Isn't it perfectly reasonable for ResearchGate to establish that perimeter? Well, I mean, if you are hosting millions of complex data-heavy PDFs and suddenly a massive wave of AI language models starts rapidly downloading everything every second of every day just to synthesize summaries or train their models, your service would collapse, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
The bandwidth costs alone would bankrupt a repository. They kind of have to put up a wall just to keep the lights on.
You're totally right. Protecting server load and managing bandwidth is the practical infrastructural defense, and it is entirely necessary for their survival.
Right.
But consider the philosophical friction this introduces for a learner today.
Oh, that's a good point.
We increasingly rely on these synthesis tools to navigate the sheer volume of information available, right? You use an AI assistant to parse through dense, jargon-heavy academic papers, extract the core concepts, and format them into an understandable framework.
Yeah, it functions as a really powerful accelerator for understanding. Without it, you are back to manually reading 40-page PDFs filled with complex statistical charts just to find the core thesis.
Exactly. So the tension here is between infrastructural self-preservation and the modern velocity of learning.
Right.
If proxy servers ban automated systems from accessing primary research, the barrier to entry for understanding complex global topics goes right back up.
Yeah, the bouncer isn't just checking IDs anymore. The bouncer is dictating the specific tools you are allowed to use to comprehend the material once you actually find it.
It's a deliberate policy choice coded directly into the architecture of the web.
Wow. Okay, so we know how we were blocked by the reverse proxy, and we know why our AI assistant triggered the AIR 1020 bandwidth defense, but the curiosity is honestly killing me. I need to know what knowledge was being guarded so fiercely.
Well, the bouncer's meticulous record keeping actually preserved the map to the ghost document for us.
Yes.
The server log includes a line labeled requested URL, which contains the exact path of the file we tried to access.
Okay, looking at this URL string, we can kind of read the tea leaves. First, we have the author's profile path, which is Lina Ojeda Riva.
Yeah.
Then we have a 9-digit publication tracking number, 407-07072. But the real treasure is the actual PDF file name encoded at the very end of the web address.
It's a file name itself.
Yes, and it's written in Spanish. It says, Turismo Regenerativo y Soluciones Basadas la Naturaleza.pdf.
Wow. A literal blueprint encoded right in the address.
If we translate that string into English, the title of our block paper is Regenerative Tourism and Nature-Based Solutions.
Which is just so perfectly ironic.
It's incredible irony.
Yeah.
We have this highly artificial, rigid mathematical server node, literally designated FL745F39, aggressively blocking our access to a paper that is fundamentally about reconnecting with the natural world and regenerating the Earth.
A machine firewall isolating nature-based solutions.
Seriously.
The irony is definitely palpable, but, we can take those translated terms and extract some significant conceptual meaning from them.
It's over.
Even without the full text of Lina Ojeda Riva's paper, the title alone outlines a profound shift in how we approach environmental interaction.
Okay, let's break down the first half of that title then. Regenerative tourism. I mean, I hear the term sustainable tourism thrown around constantly.
Right, everywhere.
Yeah, a hotel asks you to reuse your towels to save water, or an airline offers you the chance to buy carbon offsets for your flight. But looking at the word regenerative, it makes me think this goes far beyond just standard sustainability.
It absolutely does.
It implies you aren't just minimizing your footprint, you are actively fixing something that is broken.
That distinction right there is the entire crux of the movement. Sustainable tourism is fundamentally built on maintaining the status quo.
Okay.
It operates on the principle of doing no harm. If you visit a pristine ecosystem, sustainability dictates that your presence should have a net zero impact. You leave the environment exactly as you found it.
Ah, the old hiking philosophy, right? Take only pictures, leave only footprints.
Precisely. But regenerative tourism requires a massive paradigm shift. It acknowledges a really harsh reality, which is that many of our global ecosystems are already deeply degraded.
They're already hurting.
Exactly. The goal can no longer be merely to do no harm because the baseline is already damaged. The objective of regenerative travel is to actively improve, heal, and restore the environment you are visiting.
Wow.
Your presence must generate a net positive impact.
Okay, to put that into a concrete scenario for the listener, sustainability is like a coastal hotel installing low-flow shower heads so they don't drain the local water supply too quickly.
Right.
But a regenerative approach would be that same hotel constructing a gray water filtration system that actively irrigates and restores a local depleted wetland nearby, meaning the biodiversity of the area actually increases because the hotel is operating.
Yes. The tourist transitions from a passive observer trying not to break anything into an active participant in ecological restoration.
That's a huge shift.
The economic engine of tourism itself becomes the primary mechanism for healing the landscape.
That reframes the entire concept of travel. And it perfectly leads into the second half of our Ghost Documents URL, which is nature-based solutions.
Right.
That phrase sounds incredibly intuitive, but in an academic context, it clearly represents a specific operational framework, doesn't it?
It does. Nature-based solutions refer to strategies that protect, sustainably manage, or restore natural ecosystems to address profound human and societal challenges.
Okay.
Instead of relying purely on heavy artificial human engineering, you leverage the inherent capabilities of the Earth's natural technology.
So like trying to stop coastal flooding, maybe. The traditional human engineering approach is to, I don't know, pour thousands of tons of concrete and build a massive, rigid seawall.
Right, the brute force method.
Yeah, but a nature-based solution would be actively replanting a degraded mangrove forest along that exact same coastline.
Exactly, and the mechanics of the mangrove forest are infinitely superior to the concrete wall.
Really? How so?
Well, the complex root systems of the mangroves naturally trap sediment and actually build up the coastline over time.
Oh.
The dense canopy absorbs and disperses the kinetic energy of storm surges. Furthermore, the forest provides a critical nursery habitat for local fish populations. And this is key, it sequesters atmospheric carbon simultaneously.
That is amazing. A concrete wall just takes structural damage from the waves until it eventually cracks, right? And then it requires massive financial investment to repair.
Yep.
But the mangrove forest actually grows stronger over time and self-repairs. It solves the flooding problem while multiplying ecological benefits across the board.
That's the beauty of it. So combining those two concepts, regenerative tourism and nature-based solutions, suggests that Lina Ojeda-Riva's paper was outlining an entirely new economic model.
A framework where the capital generated by human movement is directly channeled into funding, planting, and maintaining those exact mangrove forests.
Or funding diving operations that physically graft and restore coral reefs.
It's a completely scalable blueprint for planetary healing.
It is.
And the ideas are fully formulated, peer-reviewed, and sitting right there on a server.
Right.
But we cannot read the granular details, the case studies, or the data sets because an automated reverse proxy tagged our AI assistant with error 1020 at 8:55 in the morning.
It perfectly illustrates a critical bottleneck in human progress, honestly.
Yeah.
The sophisticated solutions to our most pressing environmental crises already exist in the digital vault. But if the channels of distribution are arbitrarily closed off to the modern tools we use to process, translate, and understand that information, the knowledge just remains inert.
That is so frustrating. We started this deep dive staring at a blank, unyielding error page, like we were flatly denied access to the traditional knowledge we sought.
Right.
But by treating that rejection as a digital crime scene, We actually managed to map the underlying architecture of how information is guarded today.
We did. We identified the specific edge server node, we analyzed the Cloudflare Ray ID mechanics, and we discovered that our Notebook LM user agent was the exact culprit that triggered the bandwidth defense protocols.
And despite all that, we successfully decoded the ghost URL to explore a transformative environmental framework anyway.
Yeah, we proved that even when you are locked out of the building, carefully examining the shape of the lot can still teach you a tremendous amount about the ecosystem.
Absolutely. You don't always need the full 40-page PDF to spark a paradigm shift in how you view the world.
The metadata alone provided a conceptual launchpad. But, our work around today highlights a precarious systemic issue that goes far beyond just a single PDF on environmental tourism.
It really does, which is exactly the thought I want you, the listener, to mull over as you go about your week. Think back to that massive digital library guarded by the automated reverse proxy,
The bouncer.
the server that scans the specific tool you use to read and decides whether or not you belong inside.
Because if the vast repositories of human knowledge increasingly rely on automated firewalls to block AI tools from reading, translating, and synthesizing complex research, who ultimately gets the privilege of being well-informed?
Right. We have spent the last decade building these incredible, highly capable systems to help us learn faster, to help us cut through the noise of the digital age and distill dense academic research into actionable wisdom.
Exactly.
But if the gates to the primary sources permanently snap shut, if Error 1020 becomes the default response to artificial curiosity, we might find ourselves wandering around outside the library forever.
It's a scary thought.
Are we inadvertently creating a future where the exact solutions needed to solve our biggest global problems exist perfectly intact, but the specific tools we rely on to understand them aren't even allowed through the front door?
That's the real question.
Next time you hit a digital roadblock, just remember that an error page isn't just a glitch. It is a boundary line dictating exactly how you are expected to consume the world's knowledge. Keep questioning the barriers in front of you and never let a digital bouncer stop you from reading the tea leaves.